Hello all and welcome back for another video on this channel. Today we're going to be talking about something very close to my heart. As I've made very clear in the past, I am indeed an Arsenal fan. And if you've been paying any attention to the Premier League or Arsenal or the footballing community altogether, you'll know that Arsenal are in the middle of a huge squad rebuild after losing our last long-term manager in Arsene Wenger. Now, as always, Arsenal have been linked to a whole lot of players. Some good, some bad, some realistic, some unrealistic. And unfortunately, we haven't signed any yet. You know, not much has changed. And in this video, we're going to be going through each of our transfer links or rumours one by one and rating them out of 10 and seeing how they'll improve the squad, whether they'll be useful. And yeah, just giving my opinion on them in general. So without further ado, let's begin. We start off the video talking about highly rated French forward Alexis Claude Maurice, who plays for FC Lorient in League 2. He's a all-purpose forward who can play on the left, right, in the middle, can play up top, he can play centre forward, and he possesses a lot of the qualities that our squad's been missing for a very long time. Last season for the French League 2 division side, he managed to score 14 goals in 36 games, which is actually a decent return, I think. And some of the pros that he possesses are his versatility, as mentioned before. He's incredibly pacey. He's a very good dribbler. He's decently two-footed. He can shoot and cross off both feet. He wins a lot of fouls, as he would do. He's very creative and can shoot from distance. However, on the downside, he's not a very big defensive contributor. He lacks aerial ability because he's on the short side, only 174 centimeters. He's not very physical, and he'll demand a lot of game time. In the press, apparently he would prefer to go to Borussia Mönchengladbach because he doesn't feel that he'll get as much game time as he wants at Arsenal. In conclusion, I'd say I'd rank him about a 7.5 out of 10. We should definitely sign him, and as a caveat to his demands, probably loan him out to Borussia Mönchengladbach for a season or two. Because he's only 20, 21, and by the time he comes back after 2 seasons or so, Laka and Oba will be out of the age range, and he could probably just take over straight away. Next, we're going to look at a midfield option in Adrien Rabiot, the 24-year-old PSG centre midfielder. He's been touted as the Aaron Ramsey replacement that we've been looking for, and I think he'd be a very good replacement. In fact, I think he'd be an upgrade. He's one of the most highly ranked youngsters in world football, not just French football at the moment. However, he does come with a lot of issues and a lot of baggage. But let's start by looking at the positives. So he's very good in the air, as he would be, being 6'4", I think it is, on 188 centimeters. He wins on average 1.8 aerial duels per game. His passing's exceptional as well, 93% success rate, 74 passes per game, 3.4 long balls, not 34, Jesus. 2.5 tackles per game, and he's only dribbled past 0.2 times per game, which is very impressive. He's young, he's tall, he's physical, he'd be able to deal with the strain of the Premier League. However, the cons are somewhat stifling. He'd have huge wage demands as he's transferring on a free. He's been known to have attitude issues, though the media does like to demonize players, as they did with Ousmane Dembele, so, you know, maybe he's not that bad. And the same with Aubameyang was supposed to have attitude issues, and he's been an absolute joy since he arrived at the club. He does have a very strained relationship with Unai Emery, which is not great, and that's probably the reason why we're not going to get him. And in conclusion, I'd say he's a 6 out of 10. You know, if you can get him, you definitely do, because he's free and he's a brilliant player. And personally, I think his on-the-pitch talent will outweigh his off-the-pitch issues. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this next because I think this is one of the most useless transfer rumours I've ever seen. So what we have here is 25-year-old Sampdoria midfielder Dennis Praet, who plays as a cam/centre mid or deep-lying playmaker, I believe. And honestly, I've looked at his stats for the season, and it's very hard to get excited about them. He's statistically a worse passer than Matteo Guendouzi, in the sense that Matteo averages more passes per game and has a higher pass accuracy as well as managing almost the same key passes per game despite playing deeper. So I'm not sure why we're linked to him for that. And he's a worse defender than Lucas Torreira, so I'm not sure why he would, be linked to us there either. He can't play wide because he's not particularly pacey. He is two-footed, which is very good. He can shoot off both feet, but, that's not very useful since he doesn't get many shots per game. He's expensive, and he doesn't want to leave Italy. So there is almost zero reason to buy him. I'm going to give him a 1 out of 10. Right, from one extreme to the other, we're now going to move to possibly the most hyped transfer rumour surrounding Arsenal Football Club from this term, and that is going to be the Moroccan 26-year-old Hakim Ziyech. Now, to be perfectly honest, I liked Ziyech a long time before he was linked with Arsenal, so this is going to be a review riddled with bias. Now, to start off with, we're going to talk about the positives. First of all, he's versatile, although, again, take this with a pinch of salt. It's not so much about him being very tactically flexible. It's more the fact that he just goes where he wants in attacking roles. So, yeah, he can play both wings. He can play centre mid, he can play cam, he can play centre forward. But no matter where you put him, he's going to take a very free role and just wander out the pitch, being useful wherever he goes. But you can excuse his wandering nature because he's incredibly creative. He manages 3.2 key passes per game, 3 accurate long balls, 2.5 crosses, though crossing is not his biggest strength, to be honest, and has a pass accuracy of 73%, which isn't going to sound very high considering we talked about Guendouzi having 90% before, but you have to remember he plays most of his game in the final third, so 73% passes completed in the final third is a very good stat. Next, we have to talk about the fact that this man is an absolute shot monster. We've been looking to replace Aaron Ramsey's goals from midfield, and I believe Ziyech is the man to do it. On average, Ziyech takes about 5.3 shots per game in the Eredivisie, and just for comparison, Cristiano Ronaldo manages 5.7 in Italian Serie A as a striker. So this man will take a lot of shots. However, that stat you must also take with a pinch of salt because unlike Cristiano Ronaldo, Ziyech's shot location is awful. The man will shoot from literally anywhere. But you know what? I'm not even going to knock him for it because he's managed 21 goals and 16 assists in 47 games. Honestly, there is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't sign him. He's a brilliant dribbler, managing about 4 take-ons per game. He creates 4.9 chances per game. He manages 1.8 successful tackles as well as a winger. And other than that, he's pretty one-footed, which isn't great. But, you know, we've been playing with Ozil for all this time, so we can't really complain. And we will probably have to sell either Ozil or Mkhitaryan to fit him into the squad. But again, that's a positive. That's not even a con. I'm going to rate him 10 out of 10. This is a signing we should definitely do, and I'm stunned that we haven't done it already. Oh, apparently I forgot to address the fact that he supposedly had a 25 million euro release clause, but that has turned out to be false. But Ajax still only want 31 million for him, which I think is an absolute steal, considering Sampdoria went about that money for Dennis Praet, who literally can't do anything. Right, now the next signing could split opinion because it depends in which camp you sit in, whether we should sign him or not. That is Ismael Benassir of Empoli, the ex-Arsenal player, ex-Academy graduate, I believe. And his signing is contingent on the sale of Granit Xhaka. So it depends on whether you want to keep or sell Granit Xhaka, whether you want him in your team or not. Personally, I think we should sell Granit Xhaka, not because he's a bad player or because I dislike him or anything, but I think currently people are offering upwards of 40 million euros for him, which we certainly won't get should we wait another season to sell him. So sell him now while the stock is high and bring in a much younger replacement, much more mobile replacement in the Algerian Benassir. The 21-year-old is a deep-lying playmaker / centre defensive midfielder. He lays on 0.9 key passes a game, which is less than Xhaka, but not a whole lot less. And obviously, being 21, he has a lot of room to grow. He manages 51 passes per game, which is about the same as Matteo Guendouzi, I believe. But again, this is in a team that doesn't dominate possession, so that's actually quite impressive. 3.9 long balls per game, 86% accuracy, 2.6 tackles per game, which is, I think, the main issue here, because Xhaka does not have any defensive output, even though he's an exceptional passer. And what we need is someone to just shore up our midfield. And on top of the 2.6 tackles per game, Benassir manages 1.5 interceptions and is only dribbled past 1.2 times per game. He's also a set-piece specialist, and as far as I'm concerned, he doesn't have any real cons. All in all, he's really just a more mobile version of Xhaka. Plus, he's already played for Arsenal before, so he knows the club structure. And I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10, I think. Yeah, that's deserved. Next up, we're going to look at a centre-back link, because as anyone who's watched Arsenal this season knows, we have untold defensive issues. This centre-back comes in form of a 23-year-old Danish centre-back from Sampdoria. Johan Andersson is 23 years old, 192 centimetres, which is about 6'5", I believe. He's 90 kilograms, very physical, and I think his biggest asset is the fact that he's a very composed ball-playing centre-back. He averages 5 long balls per game, which is on par with Granit Xhaka, which is exceptional. 88% pass completion, which is very impressive as well for a centre-back. And 63 passes per game. All of this comes at the age of 23, and he's very far from the finished article, as I've seen a few clips of him playing. And so he has lots of room to grow in. I don't know if he'd go straight into the first team. I doubt he would. I think he'd rotate for a while. But I think he could be a very big asset for us should we sign him. He's dribbled past more than Mustafi, which isn't great, but he's, 23 years old. He can definitely improve in that sector. And on the downside, though, he doesn't actually want to leave Italy. He wants to go to AC Milan over a move to Arsenal, and he's fairly expensive for his age, though I think it'd be a very worthwhile investment should we sell off Mustafi or Koscielny or any of the other lads that, are kind of dead weight in our team now. I'm going to rate him 7 out of 10 because I think he does have a lot of potential and he could do a job for us. But I think we should probably consider other centre-back links that we currently have before going for him. Speaking of defensive links, we've got 22-year-old Kieran Tierney on our radar at the moment, I believe. He's a left-back who plays for Celtic in the SPL, and he's got bags of experience despite only being 22 years old. He's captain Celtic, I believe, captain Scotland. He's played in year after year of Champions League games. He's won multiple trophies. I think he's won a treble of trebles at Celtic as well. So, I think he's the perfect candidate for us at left back to replace Monreal. He's young but experienced. He's tenacious. He's defensively sound, which we need in a left back because Kolasinac just wasn't doing that job. He's very pacey. He can play at centre back as well, should we need him to, which means that we could use a 5 at the back with Tierney and Kolasinac on the same side, which is perfect. He actually wants to come to Arsenal, unlike quite a few of our other links. And he's relatively cheap. I see absolutely no downsides to this signing whatsoever. He'd essentially mean we've got a left back for the next 10 years or so. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10, and I actually think we might have already signed him, and we're just waiting for the new Adidas deal to come in so we can announce him. Now, this next link kind of makes me sigh. Yannick Carrasco of Dalian Yifeng, the Belgian winger. Kind of like an ex-wonder kid, He used to be one of those super high potential youngsters on FIFA, but he's never really reached his potential. He went to China for a payday, and he's kind of looking to come to Arsenal as an escape route because he's not enjoying it in China despite all the money he's earning. And just this whole narrative, just doesn't make sense to me. You don't get players who come to Europe, then go to China, then come back to Europe and become, outstanding players. Other than maybe Axel Witsel, I think. He's the only person who's managed to make that move. But, I'd much rather go for someone like Januzaj, since we're looking for a winger, and he's Belgian as well, who'd, went to Man U, had a torrid time there, then came to Sociedad, and he's had an amazing time at Sociedad, one of the best attackers in La Liga. Also, we've got Reece Nelson, Emile Smith-Rowe, and Ketia already in the Arsenal camp, and I don't see why we can't just rely on them, rather than bringing in Carrasco, who's going to take a shit ton of wages, extremely arrogant, and honestly just doesn't even want to play for Arsenal. He just wants to leave China. He'd take any offer. Forgot. I'm going to rate him 1 out of 10 as well. Yeah, but fortunately, links to him have cooled down. On the topic of wingers, we're going to look at someone who's going to have far less star quality than a Nelson or a Carrasco or a Januzaj, but probably has far more output. We're going to look at 25-year-old Ryan Fraser of Bournemouth, the Scotland international, who's already Premier League proven as he got 14 assists last season in the PL, which was the second only to Hazard. And just look at the positives. He's got an incredible work ethic. He will put in a shift every game. No ego to speak of, to be honest. He's a very humble, feet on the ground kind of lad. He's extremely quick. He's very versatile, can play almost every midfield position. Can play centre forward even if we needed him to. His passing is brilliant, 2.5 key passes per game, 2 crosses per game, and I cannot stress how good he is at crossing. He can cross on both feet, and he's incredibly accurate with deep crosses, with cutbacks, with normal crosses. He's got very good indirect set-piece delivery with free kicks and corners, and he's got a 76% pass accuracy in the final third, which is incredibly impressive. That's more than even Hakim Ziyech. The cons are he does not like to take players on. He is not a very good dribbler. He's more a playmaker than he is the kind of player that will take people on, which is a bit of a downside because Arsenal are kind of looking for someone who can do one-on-ones and stuff. and he has very little defensive contribution. He's also a wee guy, so like even though he looks absolutely stacked, he does not get involved in too many physical battles. On the whole, though, I'm going to say he's a 7.5, bordering on 8 out of 10, because he's actually quite expensive given what he is. I think Bournemouth want no less than 30 million for him, which is quite pricey. And but if we can get him for less than that, then I say he'd be a very sound investment. Now, the final link we're going to look at today is William Saliba of Saint-Etienne, who's an 18-year-old French centre-back. I'm not really sure what to think about him. I've spoken to a lot of friends of mine, a lot of people who watch Ligue 1, a lot of French friends, and yeah, the jury's still out on this one. I mean, positives are the fact that he's young and ball-playing and physical, and if the reports of, L'Equipe and a lot of former French internationals are to be believed, then he has enormous potential. And also being 18, he can be used in the Europa League, he can be used in the League Cups, and, there's no need to slap him into the first team immediately. However, I believe the fact that Saint-Etienne are asking for 20 million for a largely unproven 18-year-old is a little bit steep. However, people who've watched him play say that it's a bargain, so I'm really not sure what to think about that. And also, I believe Saint-Etienne also want him loaned back to them for a season after we pay for him, which I actually don't think is that unreasonable, considering we wouldn't be using him in the first team anyway. He's too young, and he'd get more play time and have more time to mature should he play for Saint-Etienne. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 because I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And if this many French internationals are going to be touting him as the next Raphael Varane or the next big thing in French football, then surely he can't be terrible. And obviously Arsenal are in desperate need of defensive reinforcement, so I really can't turn my nose up at this one. So I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10, and I say maybe just go for it. Go for the 20 mil, whatever, Take a chance. It's not extortionate. It's just a little bit pricey. So a club of Arsenal stature shouldn't be shying away from a 20 million euro transfer. And that concludes the video for today. Thank you for watching if you're still watching. And I'll be releasing far more videos on Arsenal topics and Arsenal things because that is the team that I love. And I hope you tune in to my future videos as well. Cheers. See you in the next one.